Force yourself to do the podcasts that you're not sure you should even be doing. The worst thing that happens is it's a flop, nobody listens, and you can say, well, I gave it a try. There will never be the perfect time. If you feel a passion for something, jump in and do it. Your work will never be 100% flawless, and the sooner you're able to accept that, the better off you'll be, and people will be more receptive to you if you don't have everything perfect, okay? You're certainly going to hear me not be perfect on here, and already have. Okay, the second kind of imposter syndrome is the Superwoman or Superman syndrome. People who experience this phenomenon are convinced that they're phonies amongst the real deal colleagues. They push themselves to work harder to measure up, and this is just a false cover-up for their insecurities. The workload may harm not only their mental health, but also their relationship with others. Because if you feel like at any moment, again, somebody's going to come in and discover that you shouldn't be there, you're going to have walls up around you. You're going to feel disconnected. It's just a very uncomfortable place to be, okay? Imposter workaholics are actually addicted to the validation that comes from the working. And so, not to the work itself. So start to train yourself. If you identify with this kind of imposter syndrome, train yourself to veer away from the external validation. Easier said than done, particularly if you're an extrovert, because remember, we extroverts get our validation from external, or we look to others to see how to or how not to do something. But no one should ever have more power to make you feel good about yourself than you, even your boss. On the other side of it, learn to take constructive criticism seriously, but not personally. Now, this one is a really difficult one for me, because I usually, whatever I'm doing, I put my all into it, and I love it a lot, and it's part of my identity, okay? Work is very rarely just a paycheck. The constructive criticism, if done respectfully, I definitely take seriously. If it's done respectfully, I don't take it personally. That's what we want to strive to do. Sometimes I do take it personally. As you become more attuned to the internal validation and able to nurture your own inner confidence that states you're competent and skilled, you'll be able to ease off the gas as you gauge how much work is reasonable. In other words, if you're overworking not because of the level of work and that you love the work, but because that fear of somebody else getting in there before you and being better than you, that's something that you really want to take a look at. Okay, so the third kind of imposter syndrome is the natural genius. People with this competence type believe that they need to be a natural genius. As such, they judge their competence based ease and speed as opposed to their efforts. In other words, things have always come easy to them, and if they come upon something, as inevitably you will, right, that takes them longer to master, then they feel a level of shame. These types of imposters set their internal bar impossibly high, just like the perfectionist. They don't just judge themselves based on ridiculous expectations. They also judge themselves based on getting things right the first time. I mean, come on. They want to be able to do something quickly and fluently, and there's little forgiveness of self if they can't. Okay? And even in handwriting analysis, I do some of that. There's parts of your writing that shows whether you learn something very quickly, and those type of learners, they let things go quickly. The quicker you learn, the more quickly you forget. And then there's a cumulative learner who takes a while to learn something, yet they hold on to it for a lifetime. Like once they know it, they know it. This has nothing to do with intelligence. It's simply the speed of the mind. Well, the natural genius wouldn't be very forgiving of themselves for taking a while to learn something, but they actually have the benefit of holding on to it forever. So, Okay. If you want to have more impact at the office, it's much more productive to focus on honing your presentation skills. For example, than swearing off speaking up in meetings is something you're just not good at. So in general, you don't have to be good and great and fast and good over time. Immediately. Some things take a while. But don't just tell yourself you can't do it and go, I'm not good at that. I'll let so-and-so do it. Because this is an ego protection. With practice, with hours, with experience, you get better, period. There's no way not to. So, let's look at the next type of imposter, and that's the soloist. This is the one who feels like if they ask for help, it reveals their phoniness or the fact that they don't belong in the group. Listen, it's okay to be independent. I am one of the most. But not to the extent that you refuse assistance when you need help. Because the truth is, any good, successful person has an advisory board. They have their support. They have their helpers. And you're going to be better with that support. If you feel like you cannot accept help or that it's going to take away from you, if you feel vulnerable, if you don't have complete control, then that is definitely an area that this defines you, the soloist. The big question is, can you choose? If it's really difficult and you feel too vulnerable, this is something you probably should look at. And that's a little bit different from having people around that you don't feel like you can trust, and it just wouldn't be a good idea. That's different. Otherwise, can you accept someone's help? Okay. And our fifth type is the expert. This is experts. They measure their competence based on what and how much they know or can do. Believing that they will never know enough or be able to do enough. Fear being exposed as inexperienced or unknowledgeable. This is the one who is afraid to apply for a job because they may not meet every single educational requirement. So they're constantly seeking out trainings and certifications, not to better self. This is different. The energy is such that I don't feel like I'm enough, and so I have to keep attaining and acquiring and getting the certifications and getting the degrees. It's a very difficult place to be. How many times I've been asked, should I apply for that job? Should I apply for that job? What if I don't know how to do it? Well, you're not supposed to know. Or what if I can't do the interview? That's one of those, just jump in and do it. There's nothing wrong with that. You're interviewing them too. So if it doesn't work for you, you just say, hey, that was an interview I didn't have to do. I just got more experience. So let me ask you this. How do you feel when someone calls you the subject matter expert or the expert? If you shudder at the thought of that, you're probably one of these one of this type of imposter syndrome. You're experiencing this. There's always more to learn. You can always bulk up your skill set, but if your business card is 3 cards wide because of all the credentials that have to be put on there, you might fall in this area. Okay? And also, taken too far, the tendency to endlessly seek out more information and more trainings, more certifications can be a form of procrastination as well. Feeling like you're never enough. Realize there's no shame in asking for help when you need it. Someone's not going to take over because you received help from them. Okay? Some studies suggest that 70% of people experience imposter syndrome. I'm here to say that I believe it's 100%. We've all felt it, especially in a new job. Like I said before, if Maya Angelou felt like a fraud after all of her accomplishments and bestsellers, so can we. This doesn't measure our abilities. So what's the difference between someone who feels imposter syndrome versus those who don't? They think different thoughts. That's it, folks. They think different thoughts. It's all about your thoughts. Recognize when you feel fraudulent, when you feel like you don't belong, okay? We need that sense of belonging. If you're the only or one of a few people in a meeting or a classroom, workplace, who look or sound like you are much older or younger, then it's only natural you sometimes feel like you don't fit in. If you're the first woman, person of color, or the first VP, judge, you're doing an internship, or an astronaut. I just read that Neil Armstrong was reported to say at a party where he was the guest of honor that he didn't belong there because these people have all done something and I was just sent somewhere. Okay, if Neil Armstrong felt that, don't you think we're going to feel that sometimes? But it does not determine who we are. Now and then you'll have to fake it till you make it. You have to fly by the seat of your pants, as they say in the South. But instead of considering it just winging it as proof of your ineptness, learn to do what many high achievers do and view it as a skill. The fact that you can go and jump in and fake it till you can make it is actually a pretty amazing skill. And as I've shared, it's the biggest thing, my biggest secret is I don't wait till I'm comfortable. I do it until I'm comfortable. Okay? Don't wait until you feel confident to start putting yourself out there. Courage comes from taking risks. Change your behavior first and allow your confidence to build. And I ask you, as a parting comment, when your time comes to be celebrated, will you stand tall and receive your honor, your award, or your accolades? Or are you going to shy away and make excuses and downplay the accolade or the compliment? I encourage you to stand up tall and take what you've worked so hard for. This is Texas Desert Rose. Thank you for joining me. Blessings.